Can all of India's World Cup campaigns finally culminate into a victory this time around?
The Women's ODI World Cup has seen 12 editions of the World Cup so far. Interestingly enough, the first official Cricket World Cup was in 1973, which is in fact the Women's World Cup 2 years before the Men's World Cup. Now, if you look at India's campaign in each of these World Cup, it's been a mixed bag so far, which is also why it'll be interesting to see how India has done in each of the World Cups and if there are some interesting anecdotes to take out from them. Now, before we get into each of the World Cups, hit that subscribe button. Ganguly in that year when he did get dropped was one of the best batters the Indian team had.
And by 2008, Virat had made his debut. 2007, Rohit had made his debut. And Rohit was fitter that time. From that perspective, then again it comes down to the same very argument, which is Sachin and Sehwag. How do you just drop these legends? You can't. So
yeah, no one's close to Irfan Pathan. He's the only bowler in this time period to get a 5-wicket also. Pathan did everything right.
I wish we had access to like his bowling speeds and bowling data, which could give a better idea. The 1973 World Cup, which was the first Women's World Cup to take place, was a bit of an anticlimax from an Indian point of view because we were unable to participate in this tournament owing to a lot of issues, but especially with the funding and taking the team outside of India. But we turned this around 180 degrees as from not playing the World Cup in 73, we went to hosting the World Cup in 1978. The 1978 World Cup was hosted across 4 cities in India and it was taking place in the round-robin format. There were only 4 teams in this World Cup, which was India, Australia, New Zealand as well as England. This was also a star-studded side with all of the founding mothers of Indian cricket in this squad. It was also led by Diana Adalji, one of the most famous pillars of Indian women's cricket. Outside of all of this, however, it was a disappointing campaign as India went on to win no matches in this World Cup. However, a funny incident from this World Cup is that the Indian team was actually close to the World Cup. In particular, Shobha Mundkar was holding the World Cup and was responsible for transporting it in a train to the particular venue. The context makes this a lot more funny because it is a World Cup that is being transported not by officials but by a player and in a train, and a player no less from a team that went on to win no match in that World Cup.
This was an interesting tournament in terms of numbers because the batters from Australia and New Zealand were the only batters in the tournament to have a 50+ score. But interestingly enough, England won more matches than New Zealand in this tournament. This was also a World Cup with the least number of teams. In fact, before the tournament, because of the number of participants, this World Cup was going to be cancelled. But because of some officials who were able to pull some strings, this World Cup was able to take place. The highest run scorer for the Indian team was Shobha Pandit. In 3 matches, she scored 42 runs with a lackluster average of just 14. And the highest wicket taker for the Indian team was Lopamudra Bhattacharjee, who in 3 matches only got 2 wickets. It goes to show how bad of a campaign India had in the 1978 World Cup.
The 1982 World Cup was the return for the Indian cricket team because for a period of 54 months they had not played any kind of cricket. This tournament was an extensive and a very interesting format because the matches took place in round-robin format but where each team played each other team 3 times. And apart from nations itself that were participating in the World Cup, there was also a team that was the International 11 that had players from different countries. And they were also able to open their account in terms of World Cup wins as they went on to win 4 games in this World Cup. 3 of these matches came against the International 11 side.
Let's talk about an iconic match at the 1982 Women's World Cup. After opening their campaign with 3 straight losses to Australia, England and New Zealand, India were in desperate need of a win to keep their World Cup hopes alive. That's when something magical unfolded in the clash against International 11 that culminated in India's first ever win at the World Cup. Opting to bat first, India posted a commendable 192 for 7 through steady contributions that came in from Shubhangi Kulkarni, Anjali Pendhekar and Diana Adulji before the bowlers scripted a ruthless defense. Sharmila Chakraborty's 4-wicket burst backed by Diana Adulji and Shubhangi Kulkarni ensured that the International 11 were bundled out for just 113, sealing a 79-run win and giving India their first taste of World Cup success. This World Cup continued to produce big moments as India claimed a massive 47-run win over England in Wangui, their first ever versus the opposition. Fauze Khalili anchored the innings with a composed knock of 88 when India were tottering at 77 for 5 to get to a respectable 178 for 7 before the spinners Diana Adilji, Shubhangi Kulkarni and Chakrabarti ran through England's famed batting that included the likes of Rachel Hayhoe-Flint to bowl them out for 131. For a team still finding its feet on the world stage, this victory was proof that India could not just compete but also beat the best.
Again, this was one of those World Cup where in terms of numbers, it's very, very fascinating. Australia won 12 out of the 13 games and didn't lose any. In fact, the one game that they did not go to win was a tied match. This World Cup saw most number of tied matches take place in an ODI World Cup. Now, even though India went on to win 4 matches, there was a disappointment in the World Cup too. They got all out for 37 in one match, which at that time was the lowest total in the ODI format. This World Cup also happened to be the first World Cup where we saw the Indian batters score 50 plus scores. The highest run scorer for the Indian team was Fauzi Khalili, where in 10 matches he scored 227 runs with an average of 22.7. The bowlers in this tournament for the Indian team were very, very impressive because in 12 matches the highest wicket taker was Shubhangi Kulkarni, where she took 20 wickets with an economy of just 2.8.
1988 saw India not featuring in the World Cup yet again. Once again, this was due to a lot of financial issues as well as politics at the time. In fact, this was a period where from 1986 to 1993 up until the next World Cup, India had not played any kind of cricket. This also happened to be a very unfortunate series of events because India were already in a preparatory camp preparing for the 1988 World Cup, and that was when the sports ministry pulled their name out of that World Cup. And from there we moved to the 1993 World Cup where India were playing directly after a 7-year period. This still was a fairly decent World Cup for India where in 7 matches they were able to win 4 of the games. They ended up beating Denmark, Ireland, Netherlands and West Indies in this tournament.
India returned to the World Cup in 1993 after missing the 1988 edition, starting their campaign with a solid 63-run win over the West Indies. But it was their clash against the Netherlands that truly stood the test of time, a match still remembered for its significance and impact. The 1993 World Cup clash against the Netherlands was a rain-shortened thriller. Sandhya Agarwal's unbeaten 42 and Anju Jain's 32 carried India to 93 for 4 in 35 overs, before the bowlers led by Diana Edulji and Purnima Rao and 4 sharp runouts bundled out the Dutch for 76. India then sealed a 17-run win, a gritty display of spin, discipline and fielding under pressure.
Sandhya Agarwal in this tournament became the first Indian batter to score at least 2 half-centuries in the World Cup. She was also the highest run scorer, of course, where in 7 matches she scored 229 runs with a very impressive average of 45. And it is no surprise that Diana Edulji was the highest wicket taker, where in 7 matches she took 14 wickets, but all the more impressive is the economy, where she had an economy of 1.9.
And from there we moved to 1997. This was the first time where India went unbeaten in the group stage of a World Cup tournament. In the 4 matches that they played, there were 2 victories, there was 1 tie and there was 1 match where there was no result. India finished second in the table and eventually made it to the semi-finals of this tournament, which also happened to be the first time that this team was achieving this feat. However, India were up against a tough opponent in Australia in the semi-final. The Australians up until that point had not lost a single game and eventually went on to win the World Cup, going unbeaten in the tournament.
In their home World Cup in 1997, India's opener against Sri Lanka was abandoned, but they kick-started their campaign with a 62-run win over the West Indies, followed by a 93-run victory against the Netherlands. Yet, the match that truly stood out from the tournament was still to come. The India versus New Zealand clash in Indore during the 97 World Cup turned out to be one of the most dramatic matches of the tournament, ending in a tie. New Zealand, led by Emily Drums, composed 69 and Debbie Hockley's 44, posted 176 for 9, as Purnima Rao and Neetu David kept India in the contest with tight spells. Chasing 177, India's innings primarily revolved around Anju Jain's patient 61, which earned her Player of the Match honours. She anchored the chase with support from Chandrakanta Kaul and Purnima Rao, but wickets fell in clusters. The game spiraled into a nail-biting finish. Despite extras contributing a hefty 29 runs, India fell agonizingly short of sealing victory, bowled out for exactly 176 in the final over. The tied result captured the intensity of the contest. India's grit against New Zealand's resilience, it remains one of the standout thrillers in Women's World Cup history. India, after a strong group stage showing, advanced to the quarterfinals where they beat South Africa. But their campaign ended with a narrow 19-run defeat to Australia.
Now for India in all the matches that they played, Anju Jain was the highest run scorer for the Indian team. In 5 matches, she scored 158 runs with an average of just 31. And with the ball, Purnima Rao was the highest wicket taker, where in 5 matches she took 10 wickets with an economy of 3. But more than all of this World Cup was a World Cup just for the Australians. Belinda Clark of Australia became the first cricketer in the history of the ODI format in both men and women to score a double hundred in the ODI format against Denmark. Denmark. She scored 229 not out, and this was also the match where they recorded the largest winning margin in terms of runs, where Australia won against Denmark by 363 runs. From 1978, which saw the lowest participant in terms of teams in a World Cup, this World Cup saw most participants with 11 teams taking part.
We then move to the turn of the century as the 2000 World Cup takes place, where India once again had a decent campaign and in fact also made it to the semi-finals yet again. In the 7 matches that they played, they won 5 of these encounters and finished third in the group stage. This, however, was a very interesting World Cup because for the very first time there was extensive coverage of everything that took place in this World Cup. In terms of audio as well as video, all of the broadcast was covered, but also in the fact that there was ball-by-ball coverage for this tournament. And this is simply because Cricinfo was the sponsor for this very World Cup.
In this World Cup, India notched up 2 commanding wins over 100 runs. Now, against the Netherlands and Sri Lanka, this is where it happened. But it was the clash with England that truly stole the spotlight. India clinched a tense 8-run win over England in Lincoln, with Rupanjali Shastri delivering a match-winning all-round performance. Batting first, India slipped to 6 for 2 before Mithali Raj and Chandrakanta Kaul steadied the innings. At 109 for 7, Shastri counterattacked with an unbeaten 29 of 28 balls to lift India to 155 for 7. Now, England's run chase never settled. Claire Taylor fought hard with a knock of 60, but Shastri stuck at key moments, with Hari Krishna and Margaret adding to key wickets. England were bowled out for 147 in 49.2 overs, falling just short. Shastri's 29 not out, 3 wickets, 2 catches and a run out sealed her player of the match accolades in India's standout wins at the 2000 World Cup.
The highest run scorer for the Indian team was Anjum Chopra, where in 8 matches she scored 267 runs at an average of 38. She also had 3 50s under her name. She was also the 3rd highest run scorer in the entire tournament. What's interesting is Mithali Raj was playing a debut World Cup where she only played 3 matches. Yet, she was the 3rd highest scorer for the Indian team. In 3 matches, she scored 152 runs with an average of 76. Early signs that she was going to be one of the legends of the Indian team. The highest wicket taker for the Indian team with the ball was Rupanjali Shastri, where in 8 matches she took 10 wickets with an economy of 3.6.
The 2005 World Cup was a very iconic one for the Indian team. This was the very first time that India were able to make it all the way to the final of the tournament. In the 7 matches that we played in the group stage, we won 4 of these games and were eventually able to make it to the final. Sadly, however, and a trend that's continued for a lot of the World Cups that we've played, is that we went on to lose this final to Australia.
Now, India enjoyed a stellar run in this edition of the tournament, but it was their semi-final triumph over defending champions New Zealand that truly stands out in history. India made history beating New Zealand by 40 runs in the 2005 Women's World Cup semi-final to reach their first ever final. Skipper Mithali Raj played an absolute captain's knock, anchoring the innings with a classy yet unbeaten 91 as India posted 204 for 6, supported ably by Anjum Chopra's 44. In reply, New Zealand stumbled to 37 for 4 before Maria Fahey fought hard with a knock of 73 not out, but India's bowlers held firm. Nushan Al-Khadir and Amita Sharma led the attack, while Neetu David and Jhulan Goswami chipped in with key strikes to bowl New Zealand out for 164. Raj's brilliance and the collective bowling effort sealed one of India's most iconic wins and a place in their maiden World Cup final.
The Indian team flourished in terms of numbers in this World Cup because the 3 highest wicket takers in this tournament were all Indians. Neetu David was the highest wicket taker not just for India but the entire tournament, and her numbers are quite impressive. In 8 matches, she took 20 wickets with an economy rate of 2.5. This was the first World Cup where Mithali Raj featured in all the matches, and it came as no surprise when she was the highest run scorer for the Indian team. In 8 matches, she scored 199 runs with a very impressive average of 49. This was also the first World Cup where India went on till the finals.
India continued to do well in World Cups, as in 2009 they once again finished at the 3rd place. In the 5 matches that they played in the group stage, they got 3 wins. This is also the first World Cup for our current captain Harmanpreet Kaur.
India made history in the 2009 Women's World Cup, pulling off a remarkable double over Australia on their home turf, an achievement that seemed almost unreal. The most iconic of them came in the Super 6 stage, where India secured a historic first ever World Cup win over Australia, defeating the hosts by 16 runs at North Sydney Oval. Batting first, India posted a competitive 234 for 5. Anchored by Anjum Chopra's 76 of 137, supported by Mithali Raj's quick 44 and Amita Sharma's 31 not out. Anaka Deshpande's 45 provided a solid start, setting the foundation for a challenging total. Australia fought back strongly, with Alex Blackwell scoring 54 and Jodie Fields contributing 43. But the Indian bowling attack held firm. Rupanjali Shastri, Jhulan Goswami, Amita Sharma, and Reema Malhotra all chipped in with crucial wickets, restricting the host to 218 for 7. Anjum Chopra's all-round performance, including key catches, earned her the Player of the Match award. Now, this victory was monumental for India, not only boosting their confidence in the tournament, but also marking a historic milestone as their first World Cup triumph over Australia, and they added further salt to the Aussie wounds by defeating them again in the third place playoff.
When India went on to beat Pakistan in this tournament, it was the biggest win in terms of balls spared. The highest run scorer for the Indian team was yet again Mithali Raj, where in 7 matches, she scored 247 runs with an impressive average of 61. And the highest wicket taker for the Indian team was Priyanka Roy, where in 7 matches, he picked up 12 wickets with an economy of 4.2.
The 2013 World Cup, however, was not as impressive as some of the previous tournaments that India took part in. In the 3 matches that we played, we were able to get just 1 victory and 2 losses.
Both India and Pakistan had endured a grueling World Cup and faced off in the 7th place playoff at Baramati Stadium, Cuttack. Pakistan, batting first, managed 192 for 7 in their 50 overs, with Nida Dar contributing a fluent 68 and Nain Abidi adding 58, forming a vital 5th wicket partnership of 68 runs. Jhulan Goswami and Niranjana Nagarajan were the pick of the bowlers for India, picking up 2 and 3 wickets respectively to keep Pakistan in check. In response, India chased the target comfortably, led by a stellar unbeaten 103 from Mithali Raj, who paced her innings beautifully and shared a 69-run 5th wicket partnership with Reema Malhotra to seal the game. Tirush Kamni chipped in with 26 and Harmanpreet Kaur added 16, helping India reach 195 for 4 in 46 overs, winning by 6 wickets with 24 balls to spare. Mithali Raj's brilliant all-round performance earned her Player of the Match award, capping off a dominant chase to secure 7th place in what was an otherwise forgettable World Cup for India.
Even before the tournament started, the World Cup got a spotlight for the wrong reasons, because until 5 days before the first game, the schedule and the fixtures of the matches were still not decided, because they had to suddenly remove matches from the Wankhede Stadium because of first-class matches that were to take place in that stadium. And obviously, because of all these reasons, the players and the officials and even the crowds were not all that happy. The highest run scorer for the Indian team was Harmanpreet Kaur, where in 4 matches she scored 159 runs with an average of 53. This was also the very first World Cup where the Indian batters scored multiple centuries throughout the campaign. And the highest wicket taker for the Indian team comes as no surprise with Jhulan Goswami, where in 4 matches she picked up 9 wickets.
And from here we move to what was possibly one of the best World Cup campaigns that India has ever had. The 2017 World Cup saw India go agonizingly close to that World Cup final trophy and eventually missing out in the World Cup final. In the 7 matches that we played, we won 5 of these, finished 3rd in the group stage and eventually proceeded through the ranks to make it to the final.
In one of the most iconic matches in Indian women's cricket history, the 2017 World Cup semi-final at Derby saw India take on the mighty Aussies in a clash that had the cricketing world on edge. Both teams heavyweights, with Australia boasting a star-studded lineup and a formidable record in ICC tournaments. India, while confident, knew had to produce something extraordinary to reach their first World Cup final since 2005. Electing to bat first, India's innings was anchored by an audacious and game-changing knock by Harmanpreet Kaur. Coming in at number 4 when India was at 101 for 2, Harman unleashed an innings for the ages. 171 not out of just 115 balls, a knock peppered with 24s and 7 sixes. She tore apart Australia's disciplined bowling attack, combining fearless aggression with impeccable timing. Mithali Raj provided stability with 36 runs, while Deepti Sharma chipped in with 25, setting India a mammoth 281 for 4 in 42 overs, a target few thought possible against defending champions Australia. Chasing 282, Australia fought valiantly with Elise Villani's 75 and Alex Blackwell's 90, but India's bowlers led by Jhulan Goswami and Shikha Pandey kept applying pressure. Deepti Sharma, Poonam Yadav and Rajeshwari Gaikwad also made crucial breakthroughs, ultimately restricting the Aussies to 245 in 40.1 overs. Harmanpreet Kaur's knock was not just a match-winning performance, it was a statement, an audacious and fearless display that defined India's World Cup campaign and propelled them into the final.
This World Cup saw a lot of records being broken, not just on the field, but even off the field in terms of broadcasting. This was the first Women's World Cup where they started using the drone, the Spidey Cam, and most importantly, the DRS. Even though the DRS wasn't available in all the matches, the fact that it was being used for the first time was monumental. For the tournament in all, there was an increase of 500% in terms of viewers coming from India alone. And even in the final, India alone had 126 million viewers watching the match. And what is more interesting is, as compared to the last World Cup, which took place in 2013, there was more than 3 times the increase in terms of prize money in the 2017 World Cup final. Now, this World Cup was important because it also showed how far the women's game had come along, because this was the very first World Cup where every player participating in the World Cup were all centrally contracted players. Now, the highest run scorer once again is Mithali Raj, where in 9 matches, she scored 409 runs with an average of 45, where she had 103 50s. And the highest wicket taker for the Indian team in this World Cup was Deepti Sharma, where in 9 matches, she picked up 12 wickets with an economy of 4.7.
Lastly, the 2022 World Cup was nothing much to write home about. India had a terrible campaign, and this is also visible in not only the stats but also in the kind of victories that we got. In 7 games, India had just 3 wins and 4 losses, which ensured that they were not able to make it to the knockouts.
Although this match is often remembered for the adorable off-field moments with Bisma Maroof's child, India's on-field performance was thoroughly dominant, beating Pakistan by 107 runs at Mount Maunganui. Batting first, India posted 244 for 7, powered by Pooja Vastrakar's 67 and strong contributions from Smriti Mandana and Surana. Pooja Vastrakar's quick-fire 50 of 48 ensured India had late momentum after those early setbacks. Chasing 245, Pakistan struggled against a disciplined and quality India attack. Rajeshwari Gaikwad's 4 wickets and Jhulan Goswami's 2 wickets kept the visitors under control, restricting them to 137 in 43 overs. India's comprehensive win, highlighted by Pooja Vastrakar's all-round performance, set the tone for their campaign, although they missed qualifying for the semi-finals by a whisker.
Now, there isn't much to see in this World Cup in terms of numbers for the Indian team. If you look at the highest run scorer, it was Smriti Mandana, where in 7 matches she did score 327 runs with an average of 46. She also had a very impressive 100 and 2 other 50s. And with the ball, Rajeshwari Gaikwad was the highest wicket taker for the Indian team, where in 7 matches she picked up 11 wickets with an economy of 3.8.
Through the years, we've seen mixed performances from India. However, it is no doubt that Indian women's cricket has grown by the manifold. Come 2025, India have a really strong chance and a really strong team to be able to pull off the incredible and win a World Cup at home. This has been our video on India and how they've done in various World Cup campaigns. If you like this video, definitely leave a like, share this video with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and also leave your comments down below on some iconic memories that you might have from any of these games. We're also going to be covering the World Cup in its entirety, going live for every India game, so definitely stay tuned for that. Share this with your friends and also subscribe to our membership. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.